Here are some important dialogues from the climax scene. I have tried to visualize it with the help of AI generated images. So please read it and eventually we will discuss what happens at the end of this play. Hey folks, in today's video we'll be discussing about one of the most important plays in the history of Indian English literature by one of the most prominent writers, Hayavadhana by Girish Karnad. Man is full of greed and we are always in search of completeness. We all are incomplete beings and we look for completeness. This is one of the major themes of Girish Karnad's prominent play Hayavadhana, Man's Search for Completeness. Let us try to dissect the title of this play Hayavadhana. Haya means horse and Vadhana means face. So Hayavadhana altogether means a horse's face. So this play is basically about a man's search for incompleteness. There are different characters that come into the play and everyone is incomplete and they are all in search of completeness in some sort or the other. Hayavadhana, meaning horse face, is a 1971 Indian Kannada language 2-act play written by Girish Karnad. The plot is based on Katha Sarita Sagara and Thomas Mann's retelling of Transposed Heads. Hayavadhana presents the story of two friends, Devadatta and Kapila, and their love interest, Padmini. Now we need to remember that we are all a part of history and whatever we say, whatever we compose, whatever we write, whatever we narrate are somewhere or the other influenced by the past. And so is Hayavadhana. Okay? Girish Karnad was inspired by Thomas Mann's Transposed Heads. But Thomas Mann was once upon a time inspired by the Katha Sarita Sagara. The Transposed Heads is a novella by Thomas Mann. It was written in 1940 and published later that year by Berman Fisher. As I told you that Girish Karnad was inspired by the Transposed Heads, there are a lot of similarities in the plots of Transposed Heads and Hayavadhana. The characters are quite similar too. In the Transposed Heads, Thomas Mann has taken these characters of Shridaman, Nanda, Sita, Goddess Kali and Andhaka. Okay? Samadhi, who is a blind child. There are two plots in Hayavadhana. Hayavadhana is a play in a play concept. Okay? What is play in a play? Imagine you are watching a movie and in a movie, the actors are shooting a movie. Okay? So in a movie, the actors are shooting a movie. So basically there is a movie and inside a movie there is yet another movie going on. This is what play in a play concept is. The audience is watching one play and the actors of that play are acting another play. Okay? This is quite an interesting thing to watch at. So there are characters from Hayavadhana and these characters can be divided into two types. The characters from the main plot and the characters from the subplot. Overall, here is the character list of Hayavadhana. Bhagavata, the main narrator of the play. Devadatta, one of the two friends. He is a man of knowledge. We look into the character description of Devadatta, Kapila, Padmini and Hayavadhana in detail in later on part of this video. Kapila, Padmini. Hayavadhana is a strange creature with the head of a horse and the body of a man. Then there is actor 1 and actor 2 who are the assistants of Bhagavata. There is the appearance of goddess Kali repeatedly in the play. She is the goddess who brings Devadatta and Kapila back to life when they die. The boy, who is the son of Devadatta and Padmini. And at last Vidyasagara, who is only referenced, though he is not present in the play, who is Devadatta's father, a Brahmin scholarly person. Before we actually dive into the narratives, the storyline of Hayavadhana, we should know the important characters who are present in this story. Devadatta. Devadatta is a learned Brahmin scholar with strong spiritual qualities and a noble face, but a thin, weedy body. He is married to Padmini and is a close friend of Kapila. Who is Kapila? Kapila is Devadatta's close friend and a confidant. It's not confident, it's confidant. Confidant means a person who keeps the secrets of another person, which means they were basically very good close friends. He's a blacksmith with a strong and beautiful body, but rather ordinary intellect. He is deeply loyal to Devadatta and becomes embroiled in the complexities of the plot, especially after Devadatta's transformation. Then there is Padmini. Padmini is Devadatta's devoted wife. Maybe she's devoted, maybe she's not, because her character is repeatedly questioned throughout the play. Okay, she becomes a central character in the play as she grapples with the changes in her husband's appearance and identity after the head swapping operation. As the play begins, it begins with an invocation to Ganesha. Okay, an idol of Ganesha is brought and kept in the stage, and Bhagavata tells some things. Now let me try to give you a small glimpse story of Hayavadhana. Basically in Hayavadhana there are two plots. The first plot is the narrator and the actors who are playing Hayavadhana, the actual story, in their drama. Initially, an actor comes into the stage who is very scared. He tells that he saw a horse who is incomplete. Okay, he had the head of a horse and the body of a person. And eventually that horse comes into the scene. When Bhagavata asks the horse what happened, why are you like this, he tells an entire story that his mother, the horse's mother, was a princess of Karnataka. She had married a Gandharva, okay, a celestial being. When her Swayamvara was conducted, she rejected all the most handsome kings and she fell in love with a horse, a white steel, okay, and she married that horse, and eventually Hayavadhana was the product of their marriage. So he had the head of a horse and the body of a human being. Now this Hayavadhana, he himself is in search of completeness. So this Bhagavata tells him, he suggests him to go to the temple of Kali and pray to Kali, because she is the one who grants the wishes of different people. So Hayavadhana leaves. And then the actual plot of Devadatta, Padmini and Kapila begins. Devadatta falls in love with Padmini. His friend Kapila helps him to marry Padmini. Okay, even Kapila is in quite infatuation with Padmini, but for the sake of his friend, he tries to curb his interest. Devadatta and Padmini get married, and then Padmini conceives a child. They plan to go to a trip to Ujjain. They plan to go to a fair, and everyone starts off in a journey. On the way to Ujjain, they stop at a point and they see a fortunate lady's flower. Please remember, students, this is a very important symbol in the story. They stop there, and when they stop there, Kapila points out two temples. One is the Lord Kali's temple and the other is Rudra's temple. When Devadatta hears this, he suddenly gets into a state of delusion. He had promised priorly, he had made an oath priorly that if he gets to marry Padmini, he will offer his hands to Kali and his head to Lord Rudra. And when he hears that both the temples fall together, he remembers his promise. Padmini and Kapila, they are flirting with each other. They both go to Lord Rudra's temple. Devadatta goes to Lord Kali's temple, and there he beheads himself and offers his head to Lord Kali. And then Kapila comes in search of Devadatta. He finds Devadatta beheaded himself. He thinks Devadatta beheaded himself for his sake. He thinks that maybe because I was in love with Padmini, Devadatta does this. So even he beheads himself and he kills himself too. Both are lying there. Blood is all around. Padmini walks in. She looks at both of them and she tries to kill herself too. Suddenly Lord Kali appears and tells her, what do you want? She tells, I want them to come back to life. So Kali gives her the boon of revival. She tells, fix their heads. And this is where the entire mashup, this is where the entire confusion actually begins. She takes the head of Devadatta and puts into the body of Kapila, and in a hurry she takes the head of Kapila and puts it into the body of Devadatta. Whoa, two new beings are created. Now Padmini, who was actually married to Devadatta with a great intellect, there is Kapila with a strong body. She desired for a strong body and a great intellect. Now this is where the actual question begins. Okay, whom should a lady desire? A person with money, with strong intellect, or a person with a strong physical body? The answer is She can desire a person with a strong intellect and a strong body at the same time. According to Girish Karnad, the concept of a complete man is this: a person with a strong intellect and a strong physical strength. Any person who acquires both becomes a complete man. Now as we move ahead, let's look into the character of Hayavadhana. Hayavadhana, whose name means horse face, is a man with the head of a horse. He is the result of the ancient lore of his parents and becomes a key character in the play. His presence raises questions about identity and the nature of humanity. Goddess Kali. Goddess Kali appears in the play as a manifestation of divine intervention. She is the one who grants Padmini's wish for revival, leading to the unusual transformation of characters. Her appearance adds a mythic dimension to the story and influences the character's fate. How is it possible that we discuss the story without discussing about the author, the eminent writer Girish Karnad? Girish Karnad was born in 1938. He was an Indian actor, a film director, a Kannada writer, playwright and a Jnanpith awardee who predominantly worked in Kannada, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and Marathi films. His rise as a playwright in the 1960s marked the coming of age of modern Indian playwriting in Kannada. He was a recipient of the 1998 Jnanpith Award, the highest literary honour conferred in India. For 4 decades, Girish Karnad composed plays, often using history and mythology to tackle contemporary issues. If you look into any of the writings of Girish Karnad, majority of them are based on ancient myths from ancient folklores, etc. But they give a contrasting relevance to the present age. For example, his Turlak, his Yayati and Nagamandala, different plays that are written by Girish Karnad are written in such a way that reflect the present society in reference to the ancient folklores and myths. Here is a quick notes bit of Hayavadhana which you can use to prepare notes or for the sake of your examination. Without giving you a boring story narrative, let's directly jump into the climax of Hayavadhana because that is where things get interesting, that is where rich symbolism is found. Devadatta goes to a fair and then Padmini along with her child goes into the forest in search of Kapila because Kapila, after the head swapping operation, he gets into the forest, as we say Vanavasa, and he cuts himself from the city and from the entire modernity. Kapila, who had the weak body of Devadatta, he transforms himself. He works really hard because he believes that it was a curse, the body was a curse on him, and he transforms himself to his original physique. Padmini and Kapila meet. She says, "This is your child and your body gave it to me." Here are some important dialogues from the climax scene. I have tried to visualize it with the help of AI generated images. So please read it and eventually we will discuss what happens at the end of this play. After this incident, Kapila questions, "Dear Devadatta, couldn't we all three live together like the Pandavas and Draupadi?" He thinks for a while and he himself says, "No, it can't be." And then they both know that this is the only solution. They both take out their swords, fight and kill each other. Now Padmini, who is left all alone, she says, "They burned, loved, fought, embraced and died. I stood in silence. If I had said, 'Yes, I'll live with you both,' perhaps they would have been alive yet." But he couldn't say yes. "No, Kapila, no Devadatta, know it in my blood, you couldn't have lived together." And finally, she hands over her child to Bhagavata and performs Sati. Sati, the practice of burning oneself in the pyre of her husband. with this, the main plot ends. There is the subplot which had started where there was Bhagavata, there were Nata, there was Hayavadhana. Now even the subplot is coming to an end. Bhagavata says, thus Padmini became a sati, and yet no one knows the spot where she performed sati. If you ask the hunting tribes who dwell in the forest, they only point out to a full-blossomed tree of the fortunate lady. If you remember, students, fortunate lady's plant, that tree is a huge symbol of this play. They say that even now on full moon and on new moon nights, a song rises from the roots of the tree and fills the whole forest like a fragrance. In the concluding scene, there is Bhagavata and a 5-year-old boy who is the son of Padmini, whom she had left in the dense forest. It's been 5 years, we fast forward to 5 years, and they meet again. And the plot 1 and the plot 2, which ran on different ends, they meet at the climax. Now this boy, this 5-year-old boy, he's very serious, even sulky. There is not a trace of laughter on his face. He's holding the 2 cloth dolls which we have already seen. But the dolls are dirtier now. And as this boy is standing there very angry, Hayavadhana comes back into the picture. Remember Hayavadhana with the horse face and the body of a human being? He had been to Lord Kali's temple to ask for completeness, and Lord Kali has granted it to him. He had become a complete horse. But he could speak. He had the voice of a human being. So even now, though he had become a complete horse, he desires for much more completeness in himself. So the horse says, "Mother, make me complete," I said. So she said, "So be it," and disappeared. Even before I could say, "Make me a complete man," I became a horse. I have become a complete horse, but not a complete being. And in the last scene, the boy smiles looking at the horse speak. Okay? So Hayavadhana makes the child sit on him and he takes him on a stroll. Now here at the climax, we come to the actual concept of completeness, students. The horse which was speaking in the human voice, and then there is the child which was not speaking. Now eventually the horse stops to speak and the child starts to speak. And in other sense, do you remember we started with the concept of a complete man, the intellect, the knowledge, a person with a huge knowledge, and a person with good physical strength. Now this boy, he had dwelt in the forest for 5 years, which means he had that physical courage, he had that physical wilderness of Kapila, and after this he was going to be handed over to Vidyasagar, the father of Devadatta. So basically he would have those intellectual capacities of Devadatta in himself. So this boy is a symbol of completeness too. He has the physical strength, the wilderness of Kapila, and he is going to possess the intellect of Devadatta. And as the story ends, the son of Devadatta and Padmini, who is a culmination of Devadatta, Padmini and Kapila, he sits on the horse and rides back to Vidyasagar's palace with pride and with elegance. Now Hayavadhana is rich of symbols, is rich of connotations, is rich of cultural traditions, is rich of ideas of modernity and the conflict between traditions, etc. The idea of a woman, of how a traditional woman is supposed to be. She's supposed to stay behind, she's not supposed to describe her desires, and Girish Karnad is consistently rupturing, he's consistently conflicting with the ideas of tradition and modernity. I cannot justify the entirety of Hayavadhana, but all I have done is given you some glimpse, some gist, some important visuals of Hayavadhana. If you found this video helpful, please mind subscribing to the channel, and if you need any more help with the content, with the reference, you can drop your comments. I will respond to it at the earliest. Thank you so much for staying till the end of this video. If you found this video helpful, share it with your friends, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and that will motivate us to be consistent with content creation. Until next time, keep smiling, keep learning.